The silver star he was awarded in Korea, alongside his Purple Heart, hung on the wall next to this picture at my grandparents' home. And this lovely lady was my grandmother. She was a Marine. She was one of the few Marines of the World War II generation. This picture also hung on that wall. I marveled at them as a child because of what they showed me. I would race up the driveway whenever we would go home for a visit because I would want to see them still proudly hung in their home. After 28 years in the military, my grandfather retired and joined civilian life. Here, he's sitting proudly behind his desk as a principal in a vocational high school serving disadvantaged youth in Alexandria, Virginia. This picture fascinated me as much as the pictures of my grandfather's military service. I knew that there was a story there. I hadn't figured it out, but I knew that there was a story there, a hint of a narrative that I would understand someday. My grandfather had served in the military, he had served in war, and he had served his community afterwards. My grandparents joined me at my graduation from West Point, where my father had also graduated, and I began to understand at that point. I understood further during my own military service, and I understood even further when I was serving as a recruiter at Teach for America, drawing college graduates into service in low-income schools, just as my grandfather had done. My history is not unique. I'm sure many of you in this room had grandparents or parents who served. That's because more than 20 million Americans served in World War II and Korea, and more than 8 million Americans served in Vietnam. Thus, of my generation, of my peers born in the 1970s, more than 60% had a grandparent or a parent who served in the military. This little guy is my son. Now, it's Father's Day, so I can talk about him, right? But, you know, Theo is unique. He's not unique just because of his good looks. He's unique because he is part of less than 50% of his peer group who have grandparents or parents who served in the military. You know, someday Theo's going to have a child himself. And given recent trends in this decade of war, that 1% of the population actually served, it's quite likely that his son or daughter will be even more unique. In fact, my grandchild will probably be less than 25% of his or her class who have parents or grandparents who served in the military. That's right, only 1 in 4 kids by 2035. George Washington said that the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. General Washington knew that the connections that the country made with veterans across generations would impact the strength of the nation for generations to come. At The Mission Continues, we create connections. We do this through volunteerism and community service. Through our fellowships and service projects, veterans across the country are introducing average Americans, average in that they are in the growing majority unfamiliar with the military, to the virtues of military service. This is April Jones. She was born and raised here in Chicago. She followed her childhood dreams into the U.S. Army, and she was a signal support specialist. She served in Afghanistan. She ran phone lines, she connected satellite networks, she installed radios in helicopters. As a Mission Continues fellow, April is working in Nashville at a center for immigrant and refugee youth. She teaches them English, she lifts their classroom performance, and while her students are learning and growing in their studies, they're also learning about April's legacy of service. Mission Continues fellows also plan and lead service projects all across the country. Thousands of non-veterans of all ages volunteer at these projects. Not only are the volunteers introduced to veteran stories of service, the broader community learns about them also. Service projects become a stage to showcase the abilities of veterans, what they bring home, to a larger audience.
They fought for our country, and now they have a mission here at home. This summer, veterans and volunteers are joining forces to beautify communities. The first stop was today with a project in Cape Girardeau. That's where we find News Channel 5's Grant Bissell and the group. The mission continues.
150 volunteers turned out to spruce up an athletic facility, long overdue for a little TLC.
They went so far, and then they're coming back and just helping out the community and doing their job.
As a country, our awareness of the stories and models of the service, like I had from my grandparents, is dwindling. Our fellows and the service members and military families who volunteer with them are fighting this loss. Because when you challenge veterans to tell their stories of military service through continued service and volunteerism here at home, our communities are not the only ones who benefit. Future generations of America will be stronger too. Thank you and happy Father's Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage, Craig Newmark.